God apparently couldn't pass a grade school science class.
All right, welcome to the second video of this four-part series where I unpack a typical atheist response to the Bible, and then I also share with you how I interpret the Bible. Now, when I read the Bible, I don't only read it, but I study and I analyze it. I also look at modern-day discoveries so that I can unpack the truth. You know, I find a lot of atheists like this guy think that the Bible is just a waste of time and won't even bother to investigate it carefully and thoughtfully, and they just end up drawing their own conclusions, which usually ends up being a total misunderstanding. So if you want, you can go ahead and take a look at this guy's video and see what he has to say, and then you can also see what I have to say so that you can make your own determination as to what sounds sensible and logical. I'll leave a link to his video in the description box below. Let's begin.
And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Who was he talking to? There were no people yet.
So this is a clear example of somebody who criticizes the Bible. And what's common with folks like this is that they don't actually take the due diligence to just do some basic research. So he's correct here when he says there were no people there, right? I mean, that's obvious, right? But there are two things that we learn about God when it comes to creation. The first thing is this: he's the only one that can speak things into existence. And that's exactly what he does here. Angels don't have the ability to speak things into existence, nor do human beings have the ability to speak things into existence. God is the only one that can bring about something out of nothing by commanding it to exist. Secondly, the Bible teaches us of a triune God, one God in three separate persons. The first chapter of John clearly demonstrates this. It says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning." Furthermore, in verse 14, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth." So it's clearly evident that God the Father was speaking with his Son.
God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. God hasn't even made the sun yet. That's not until verse 14. So where is this light coming from?
So in all fairness, I do consider this a sensible question, right? Where did this light come from? And I mean, we already know that God created the universe, right? But the truth is that I don't know. I've heard lots of commentary about this, but I don't think that anyone knows for sure what this means when God said, "Let there be light." Now listen, there's been many explanations as to what that could mean, but I'll share with you a possible explanation of what that light could have represented. So the first chapter in the book of John speaks about Jesus, referred to as the Word, who was with God in the beginning and is God, through whom all things were made. And later in chapter 8, Jesus describes himself as the light of the world, who gives the light of life to all who follow him. Could it be that the light that God was referring to was actually his Son Jesus, bringing about the light of life to the earth and then ultimately to humankind? That's just one interpretation. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, who knows? But it's kind of nice to think about it that way.
And how do we get evening and morning when there's no sun? Those words have no meaning when there's no sun.
Again, this is just another misinterpretation of the text. And you know what? This one actually surprised me, right? When he said, "How do we get evening and morning when there's no sun?" Because this is actually grade school science, right? Listen, dude, you don't need the sun to determine when it's evening and when it's morning. The times of a 24-hour period is determined by the rotation of the earth, not the sun. You need the sun for determining a set number of years, right? So the number of times the earth rotates the sun is the number of earthly years that have passed. Seasons are determined where the Earth's axis point is in relation to the sun. When the Earth's axis points toward the sun, it's summer for that hemisphere. When the Earth's axis points away from the sun, then we can expect winter. Listen, evening and morning are periods in a 24-hour day and have nothing to do with how bright it is outside.
Also, darkness isn't a separate but equal thing. Darkness is the absence of light, just like cold is the absence of heat. Those aren't two different things, they are different amounts of one thing. God apparently couldn't pass a grade school science class.
Oh, Lord. So, again, when somebody is sarcastic toward, quote unquote, a God that they don't believe in, I usually tend to think that that person is just not objective and they just have a personal problem, right? So, God could not pass a grade school science class, huh? Probably just as much as this guy couldn't pass a grade school reading comprehension class. And thank you for that eloquent and profound explanation of what light and darkness is. I wonder if he has a problem with the words sunrise and sunset, because scientifically, that's not actually what happens. The truth is he's making his arguments out of semantics. The Bible doesn't say that light and darkness are separate and equal things. Again, he's adding words and meanings to the Bible that are just not there. And this is just very, very typical of somebody who wants to criticize the Bible. They'll usually take things and blow it totally out of context. So allow me to make some closing thoughts. You know, the Bible is not a science textbook. It was not written that way, and it just seems to annoy a lot of people. It was written by an ancient Hebrew civilization. What was most important to them was the meaning behind what was being said. And you know what? Most of the Bible is actually written that way. Listen, it's apparent that Genesis was written as a narrative of history, whereby the significance of the events are a lot more important than the details. They were more concerned about who was there, what did he do, and most of all, why did he do it? And when you see this beautiful and wonderful creation that he had made, I believe that the answer to that question is, he did it for you and me. Anyway, God bless you, and I'll see you at the next video. How is it that an ancient and primitive Hebrew civilization knew something like that? It was revealed to them.